Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
Who is he?
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
And who is he?
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
And what he do?
And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts, CLR. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer. And today we're reacting to K-Flock. Now, we did a reaction to one of his songs recently, and that was Is You Ready? And if you remember that was about 2-3 weeks ago, and I can't make this stuff up. How is it that he just got picked up on December 16th for a homicide? Now, what he did was he was in a barbershop. Now, we're going to play the video here for you so you can see what we're talking about. But he's in a barbershop. There's some exchange between he and another patron of the barbershop. And he walks out, and then the other guy follows him. And then somehow he gets shot, and we'll talk a little bit more about, the facts surrounding it, because they're not quite clear is exactly what happened. And then he's charged with 3 counts. 3 counts. 1 count of second-degree intentional murder, and he's charged with second-degree criminal possession of a weapon. 2 counts of that. And we'll talk about more what the penalties are and that kind of thing. But let's take a look at the video, because he's in New York, and he's coming out of this barber shop. So now this video that's been posted all over the internet doesn't really show Kevin Perez, aka K-Flock. But it does show a reaction by other folks. So you get kind of a timing of what's going on. So these people probably heard the gunshot, and now they're reacting to it. Now remember what I told you. There's video cameras all over just about every city in America. Now let's just look at, there's a couple things I want to go over with you. First of all, what is he charged with? The first count, he's charged with murder in the second degree. Murder, the second degree, was one of the most significant crimes in New York State and just about any other state. It is called an A1 felony, and you could very likely get a life sentence if you're convicted. And even if you don't get a life sentence, there's a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 to 40 years. It's called indeterminate sentencing. Next, he's also charged with criminal possession of a firearm. In New York, you can't just own or possess in public, for that matter, a firearm. You have to have a permit. And it carries with it a 15-year penalty, but there's a mandatory minimum penalty of 3.5 years. And that's something that the judge doesn't have any discretion with whatsoever. It's called mandatory sentencing. And in that particular instance, if you are, like, let's say you're just caught with a firearm at the airport, for example, it's what they call a strict liability crime, and it sort of assumes you have 0 criminal history score. And if the judge doesn't have any discretion, and you're looking at a 3.5-year sentence, I mean, they take their gun laws extremely seriously in New York. So let's just take a look at the picture. You can see here that Mr. Perez is wearing some very distinctive clothing. And that's one of the things that cops will do, is they'll have a supposed expert, because I can see a stripe here and there's a stripe here. It's more common sense than anything else. But that is probably how he was identified. We tried looking for the criminal complaint. I couldn't pull it up for whatever reason at this point, but we'll get that, and then we'll analyze the facts that are embedded within that. However, I will tell you something about what his lawyers are saying. K-Flock's attorney is a guy by the name of Scott Lehman. I don't know him, but he released a statement, and it says, "We have begun our own investigation into these allegations. More importantly, considering the DA's significant disclosure this morning that the NYPD received a tip saying someone else is the shooter. We demanded that the DA's office promptly provide disclosure of the videos referenced in the complaint and more information on the tip. Kevin Perez, a.k.a. K-Flock, went into a barbershop. And the way the story goes is that the person that was in there said, "What are you looking at?" And he walked out. And then the person that was in there walked after him. Now, remember what I said about closing the gap? The only problem is that the guy that was following him was shot in the neck and in the back. Now, that could happen in a number of ways, obviously. But in this particular instance, if he was, if someone's chasing you and they're closing the gap, that makes a plausible self-defense more likely. And remember what I said about self-defense. Self-defense, once they get the instruction, the jury gets the instruction about self-defense, self-defense is something that the prosecution has to prove you didn't do. So in other words, it's presumed. The defense has to put up some plausible showing of self-defense in order to get the instruction. But once you get the instruction, they have to basically prove a negative. They have to prove that you didn't act in self-defense and that what you did was disproportionate to whatever threat there was. And they have to disprove each element of self-defense. So I don't think the final chapter has been written on this one yet. He's got great representation. He just signed a deal with Capitol Records. What's in his the DOA tape is the latest album, and we did the Is You Ready and Op Spotter is another one on that, and it's pretty popular. And so to see him face such serious charges at a young age of 18, when he's got nothing but up on his way. But like I said, we'll see what happens, because if someone's chasing you, you have the right to defend yourself. And if that person's armed, which we don't know he is or isn't, you have the right to defend yourself. And in this particular instance, just because the guy shot in the back and shot in the neck does not mean that the guy was necessarily running away. I mean, you can turn in an instant, and it can happen. I don't know exactly where in his back he was shot. This is all too early, but it seems to me that his own team seems to think they may have a plausible case of self-defense. But here's the deal: even if he walks on the homicide, he still may be on the hook for the other two crimes. The second-degree possession of a firearm in public. And I told you what the penalties are. I mean, he could be looking at some serious time on that regardless. So, like I said, the final chapter is not written yet on this. And we'll follow it. And, I want you guys just to take a real hard look at this. He's 18 years old. And he may not have been able to avoid this situation. He just may not have been able to. We don't know yet. And it sounds like there's a tipster who said somebody else was doing the shooting. So we don't know that yet either. It's just all too early to tell. But to be facing such a heavy thing at such a young age, better off try to avoid situations where that could occur. And that's my advice to every one of you guys out there. So that's our wrapper update for today. That was Kevin Perez, aka K-Flock, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. If you are watching this, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, spread the message, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.